Every master craftsman was once a beginner. There is no elevator to success. You have to take the stairs. One day, the people that doubted you will tell everyone how they met you. This is episode 29 of Stuck on Sawdust. Here we go. Rock stars, welcome to the shop. If you're new to the channel, my name's Daniel with Bearded Viking Woodworks. You're watching the Stuck on Sawdust series, episode 29. We're starting off today's video with this badass 3-tiered unique shelf. And this thing is one of the most profitable shelves that I've come across. Wait till you see what they're asking for this thing. And I'm going to show you how to maximize your profit building this out of some leftover materials. So you know what time it is. Let's go put our spin on this thing. Meet me at the table saw. Take a look at theirs. Their backers are 1 inch thick by 1.5 inches wide. They are 24 inches in length, and each shelf is at 16 inches. And their shelves are 4 inches wide by 3/4 inches thick. So let's switch it up just a little bit and let's get to work. So recently I did another shelf using this piece of pallet wood, which is mahogany, and I need to mill this down. It's rough sawn, and most pallets come with a thicker stock for the post and then the slats nailed to the post. So you should be able to get your hands on something similar to this. So what I'm going to do is just mill it down and get it all squared up, flattened, and rip this thing in half. Right now, I've got plenty of length at 39 inches and plenty of width and thickness. I've got 3 inches by 3 inches. So we got plenty of material to work with. So let's head to the miter box, and we're going to cut our backers down to 24 inches. So now I just need to head over to the joiner, and then we'll run this through our thickness planer and get a 90. That way we can reference against our fences. Heads up. Oh, God.
I am your father.
Okay. All right, now that we got this all milled up, I took a good bit of width and thickness off of it because it was pretty bowed up. So we're able to get our backers at 1.25 inches thick by 1.25 inches wide. So I've got my saw fence set at 1.25 inches, and we're going to take the first cut in a couple of passes because it's super thick, and get our 2 backers cut and milled down. The beauty of using stock that is thick like this is we're going to be able to get a beautiful book match on our backer pieces. That way when it's up against the wall, that is going to stand out tremendously. So the thicker the stock, the better. That way you can utilize using book match method. I need to think about how wide I want to make both of my backers. I'm kind of liking how wide they are right now, but I know that the length of my shelves is not quite long enough to keep them this thick. So I'm going to rip from the middle out 2 inches on both pieces and then see how that looks. Now, I've got this big old hunk of hickory left over still. I've been using this little by little in each project that I've been doing. And I'm gonna rip this big old 16-quarter piece at 4 inches. And I'm gonna probably take this cut in about 4 passes because this thing is thick and hickory is hard. So, let's get to it. So we got each edge that I needed to cleaned up. So I'm not going to bore y'all with ripping 3 shelves, but I'm going to rip these at 3/4 of an inch. So go ahead and get your stock ripped down, and I'll meet you back here. All right, now that I got my shelves cut and ripped and cleaned up at the sander, these lengths are 23 3/4. Now my back pieces are 24. So what I'm gonna do is make my shelves 20 inches. I think that math will work out great to give it the best effect. So meet me at the miter box. All right, we're gonna go ahead and square up one end on each shelf. Now let's pull over 20 inches and get our shelves cut. Now that we've got our shelves cut to size, we're going to go ahead with our calipers, our speed square, and our tape measure. We're going to set these to the side. I'm going to label them bottom, middle, and top. Now we'll address our backers and lay out our shelves. So from the bottom, I'm going to pull up 3 inches. From the top, I'm going to pull down 3 inches. And you want to double check that your backers are cut exactly the same length. That is very important. So we'll take our square and just square over at that 3-inch mark on the top and the bottom of your backers. You really just need to lay out one of them because we're going to be using some stop blocks for our dado cuts. But we're going to go ahead and just lay out 2 of them together. Now with your caliper, same method as in the other shelf videos I've done like this. We're going to take our mouth of the caliper and close it right over our shelf, indicating what our width is. Lock it in place. Then just take your square, and you want to set your square right on the top of that mark. And then take your back end of the caliper, butt it into your square, and make a light scribe mark. Don't be too forceful. And then flip it over and do the same thing with your other mark. Now you can take and just darken up those lines you made and transfer them to both sides of your piece. Don't worry about the back, just the sides. And this is more for just a reference. Once you get your stop block set up, you'll be good to go for the top notch and the bottom notch. Now for our center shelf, we'll measure what we have in between here. We've got 16 3/8, so we'll go 8 3/16, and that'll be the center of our shelf. So just scribe your line over. And remember here, we're going to take our caliper, line up that line right with the center of the opening of this caliper with these 2 teeth. Lift up ever so slightly, make a light indentation, and that will be the layout for your shelf. Just take and scribe those over, and you've got your center shelf laid out. transfer your marks to the sides if you need them to reference. And let's get our miter sled set up at the table saw. One of my members was nice enough to send me a set of setup blocks for the table saw or router. And I want my blade height to be about a 1/2 inch. So check this out. How badass is that? She also made this for me. Isn't that cool? Thanks, Catherine. So we'll take our 1/2 inch setup block, and you can check it like this, or set it over right on top of that carbide tip. And once it bottoms out onto your sled, you know you're at a 1/2 inch. That is super convenient. All right, we're set up for a 1/2 inch dado. So let's get this thing fired up and cut these dados. So we'll line up our saw kerf with this mark here and set a stop block on this side. And for these long backers like this, these long pieces, it's hard to get a stop block set up for this side of the line. So what I'm going to do is I'm just going to flip my piece around when I go to cut the other side of my dado and set another stop block right here. And that'll give me a perfect dado. Let's just double check our stop blocks. And we're good to go. We got this mark ready. And when we finish the cuts and are ready to cut this side of the dado, we'll just pull this down and boom, we're set up right here for both backers. So let's rock and roll. And that's the type of fit we want for our dados right there. That is perfect. I'm not going to bore y'all with cutting the rest of these dados out because it's going to take some time. But remember, we're just notching out the face and the two sides, not the back, obviously. Are you a member yet? Oh my God. Those damn geese. Consider help keeping the lights on in the shop by becoming a member of Bearded Viking Woodworks today. From your phone or your desktop, go to YouTube, go to my page, and click where it says join. There's 3 levels of membership where you can join and help support the channel and cancel at any time. Read over each perk carefully and choose your level of Bearded Viking Woodworks membership. Thanks, guys. Back to the video. So we've got both our top and our bottom dados complete. Now we're going to work on the center. For the center dado, I made my marks and transferred them on the sides. That way I can set my stop block over here and line it up with this mark. And being that this is the center of your backer, you'll be able to spin it around completely like this and line your blade up with your other mark using the same position of the stop block. I'm going to go ahead and finish up the last dado in the center and meet you back here in just a second. So now that I got all of these dados cut, I just set my shelves inside the dados for a rough layout, and I'd like for the top and the bottom to be in one direction and the center in the opposite. That'll give it the best look, I believe. So what you want to do now is grab a marking knife of some sort or a sharp pencil, and you really only need to mark one of these shelves. And just keep in mind that the middle shelf will be the reverse cut of the top and the bottom. So we're going to go ahead with the top shelf and mark those notches out and reference the top shelf, set our stop blocks up, and then cut our middle and then our back shelf off of the same stop blocks we set up for our top shelf. Let me demonstrate. So I've got 2 inches in between my backer here, which is what I was shooting for to start out with. So on the top shelf, I want to make sure my side that's shorter is at 2 inches as well. And that's the layout that I want for each shelf. So we'll go ahead with our marking knife and mark right where our shelf meets our notch here, and on the opposite side as well. And then we'll mark this backer. Once you get those 2 marks, you can go ahead and pop the shelf out, and we'll go ahead and darken up these lines so we can see them a little bit better. So that's where our notches will be located for each shelf. Now for the depth of our notch, you want to take your calipers, loosen them up, and from the back side here, take and push down on the bottom part of your caliper here until it bottoms out and hits your shelf. Tighten that up, and that will be the depth of your notch. Now, in a similar way to our other shelves we built similar to this, we'll take the mouth of our caliper right here on the edge, flush to the edge, and just make a little scribe mark right around the area of the marks we made for the shelf. And then do it to the other notch as well. We'll darken those lines up. And that will be the depth we want our notches cut. Alright, so now we just want to transfer our marks from the back side here to the face that we're going to be referencing to our kerf. Line up your knife mark with the kerf of the blade, and then for our opposite cut, we'll take and line up the opposite side with our kerf of the blade again, and we'll take a block and clamp it to our bench right over here, and that will be our opposite notch. So let's go ahead and get our first notch cut on each of our pieces. Now take your calipers and set them on your miter sled and raise that blade right to where that carbide tip touches the bottom of your caliper here. Now that you got your height set, let's go ahead and make this first notch on each of our pieces. Alright, so now that we got our first notch cut, let's just double check, make sure that everything is clicking in place. You want it to kind of click. Something like that. That is marvelous. Now, we'll take and cut our second notch. And you want these to fit snug, but not overly tight to where you have to force it. That way, if the client wants to switch the layout of the shelves, they have the ability to just easily pop them out and turn them. Just like that. Super awesome design of this shelf. I love it. But we're going to go ahead and cut our second notch for our opposite backer here and rock and roll. And once you get your second notches cut out, your piece should come together like this. Look at that book match. That is going to be amazing. I'm going to go ahead and get our key slots cut in, and we'll go over that process right now. Alright guys, so I've got my key slot bit centered to my piece and my fence is locked in. I've got start marks and stop marks for my bottom key slot and my top key slot. That way I get accurate key slots. I'm just going to be inserting a key slot on the top and bottom of one of the backers. You can also add it for the other backer as well. However, most houses don't have solid framing in the walls. They have a stud layout of 16 inches set ahead. So as long as I get one backer to mount to one stud, it should be structural enough to carry the load. And I'll show you how to transfer both key slots on both backers here in just a minute. But first, let's just go ahead and get our key slots cut in our first backer. Let that blade stop all the way, pull back, pop out. And that's how your key slot should look. And there's your two key slots. Perfect. Let's head back over to the table saw. Now, for one key slot, we'll just do the standard tape method and just center it right on your backer. And if you wanted to do two key slots in each backer, you just take some tape and overlap it. Kind of fold this piece back a little bit. Take another piece up under it. Stick that to that. Lift that up just a fuzz and go up under this last piece. Stick it all together. And you would do it the same way as we do our other key slot shelves. Just take yourself a Sharpie, press down right where your key slot is until you see the indentation. Take a Sharpie and circle that indentation. Come up here to this key slot, do the same thing. Clients that purchase a shelf like this from me, what I do is I'll take the tape template and I'll take a piece of 1/4 inch MDF and I'll cut it the size of my tape or my backer, and I'll take the tape off just like this. That way it's in one sheet, and then I'll just transfer the marks to my MDF. Drill the holes in the MDF where the screws need to go. That way, when I send the shelf, I can send that template for the fasteners. For the video purposes, we're just going to go ahead, sand this thing down, slap some finish on it, show an example of hanging it on the wall, and we'll finish this video up. But stick around because I've got a surprise of some projects from some members recently that will blow your mind. Now, for your backer, what you want to do is find the stud in your wall, make a level mark on the center of that stud, and just take your tape and find that level mark and just stick it to your wall where you want that shelf to be located. And then take and pre-drill where your holes need to be. And then our fasteners will just be some T20 2-inch framing screws. These work very well. And you want to set that screw head about 1/4 inch off your wall. Bring your shelf over, line up your screw head with your holes, and slide it down and lock it in place like that. And that is how you mount this shelf. Look at that perfect match. Let's take a look at theirs real quick. They're asking $235 for theirs. That's crazy. Is it worth it? I think so. It's unique, it's custom, and it's made out of solid hardwoods. For material to build this thing, you're looking at roughly $20. For the finish, about $3 worth. For the shipping, I've got the shipping calculated to $8 to $15 depending on where you ship it. So we're just going to estimate this at $40 to build and ship. It took me about 2 hours to build this guy. So that, my friends, is straight up my alley. and packs a big ass profit. And I'll be making a shit ton of these. I had an absolute blast building this shelf. It's super unique, super awesome, and it's adjustable. You could take this shelf, spin it around and have it going that way, this way. Each shelf is adjustable. I absolutely love it. Let's see what kind of spin y'all can put on it. I used a straight poly finish, nothing special. It's made out of mahogany with hickory shelves, and that combination is beautiful. It gives it a rustic look, which I love about the shelf. Before we go, I want to share a couple of my members' projects that they recently sent me. First up, we got Sean Wirtz sent me this badass ingrain cutting board. This thing is badass, Sean. Hell of a job, my friend. Hell of a job. Next, I want to share some of these signs that one of my members, Herbert Fitzpatrick, made. These things are unique and they're customizable, so I think it's a great idea, and you should be able to sell a shit ton of these, Herbert. Good job, brother. That does it for this video, guys. I hope y'all had an absolute blast. Let's turn this into a competition and make another giveaway competition for the members. I'm looking forward to seeing what kind of spin you can put on it. Until next time, get in your shop and make some sawdust. This is Bearded Viking Woodworks, and I have been Daniel. Thanks, guys.